Hey, howdy, friends. It's Steve DePoe here with the Rose Realty team with this week's real estate vlog for North Texas. Today, we're going to take a little bit of departure here. We're going to talk about how agents earn their compensation, how they earn their commission. I've had conversations with even friends lately who say, "Well, you just sell a house. It's easy. You deposit a big check in your checking account." Not true. There's a lot that goes into what we do in order to get a house closed and basically to keep everybody out of jail. Okay, so let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk about the commission. Every commission check that we collect, about a third goes to our brokerage, a third goes to Washington, so they can send it to the Ukraine and pay off student loan debt from people that thought that underwater basket weaving was going to be a good career. Okay, and then a third goes to us to pay our bills, which includes our mortgage, our health care because we're self-insured, food, et cetera, taxes. So this is basically how every commission check is kind of split up. So now that we've gotten that off my back, our agenda I'm going to talk about here is listing appointments, offers, inspections, closings, and basically the buyer side, which is slightly different than the listing or the seller side. So on the listing side, look, we do the research for comparative properties, which includes the price, days on market, selling price, and taxes. Now, if you were a homeowner and you thought, well, I want to sell my house on my own, some of those things like days on market, selling price, and taxes, you just can't readily get a hold of, okay? Because of the associations that we belong to, like the Greater Louisville area, or the National Association of Realtors, we have access to the selling price and days on market and stuff like that, and we can compare that to your house or the house down the street or around the corner. Okay, and that's how we get a fair price for your house, so that we don't price it too low and then you're leaving money on the table, or too high and then it's just going to sit. Okay. We do a lot of research into market conditions, explaining paperwork. Every time you sign a piece of paper, we explain it to you. Clauses in that paperwork, addendums, processes, and timing. So let's talk about market conditions for a second. June or July of last year, I was working with a bunch of buyers, but there was about 4 of them or so that thought, well, I'm going to wait until next year because the market's going to crash, values are going to go down 30 or 40%, and so then that's when I'm going to buy. Well, I showed them the data, I showed them reasons why they should buy, and today, which meant June or July of last year. And so they decided, okay, let's buy. Well, let's look what happened. Number one, interest rates back then were about 2.5% at that time. Interest rates today, I just looked, are like 7.7% for a 30-year fixed. Okay, so basically, I went out and I saved them something like 5.2% on their mortgage by listening to the data that we had from the National Association of Realtors and money lenders, et cetera. Okay, I saved them 5.5%. Rather 5.2%. You're welcome. Okay, then let's also talk about paperwork, clauses, those types of things. Do you realize that when you sign the paperwork to either buy or sell a property, that's actually a legally binding contract? The paperwork that the Texas Real Estate Commission uses, or the paperwork is actually designed by a combination of realtors and real estate lawyers in Texas. And so when you sign it, even though you don't have a lawyer sitting there right next to you, that's actually a legally binding contract. And if, let's say, a month down 2 weeks down the road, you change your mind or something happens, or you just decide not to do the deal, oh man, you're leaving yourself open for lawsuits. So there's clauses in there that basically say, you know what, bam, you're legally bound to this. You're legally bound to this. Processes and timing, we explain to people all the time, because we work with a lot of people who are relocating to North Texas, and they say, well, that's not the way we did it in Ohio, or that's not the way it works, in Rochester, New York. Well, we explain the process to them, we explain the timing, we explain basically it's like a 30-day process here, although we can lengthen that out or shorten it up as needed. We'll explain home warranties. Probably 2 years ago, sellers weren't providing home warranties, because remember, that's when the house went in the market and they got like 6 offers in one day, and they were all $50,000 above asking price. And so they were saying, I'm not going to offer you a home warranty. I'm going to the highest bidder. Well, every one of my buyers got a home warranty because I negotiated it. Okay. We help transfer utilities. We understand that it's not the best solution to cancel your utilities 2 weeks before closing. So now your buyer has to pay the extra money to have the utilities turned on. We transfer warranties in terms of, maybe you have a warranty on your water heater or HVAC system, or your termites. Okay. We measure the property. Do you realize that if you put down vastly incorrect measurements of rooms on your property, you're leaving yourself open for legal action? Okay. So then that's another situation where we're keeping buyers and sellers, on the straight and narrow, and frankly out of jail. We advertise your home. We spend a fair amount of money advertising home for our clients, and then we follow up. We follow up with sellers, and with other agents, and with title companies, and with warranty companies, and the utilities, and all of that. We follow up to make sure that at the end, when we get the closing, there's no glitches, there's no surprises, there's no ahas. Then the offers come in. Well, we receive the offers and we review them with you. Okay. We create a net sheet. Okay. We discuss the merits and the weaknesses of each offer. Just because somebody comes in and offers you a full price offer on your house for cash doesn't mean it's the best offer. Okay. We have to do a net sheet. We have to look at every one of those little clauses, and we have to understand just exactly what that means. Okay. We pre-qualify buyers. We're going to ask for proof of funds. We're going to ask for a pre-qualification letter, and we're going to pre-qualify buyers. We're going to call their lender. We're going to call their bank, and we're going to say, hey, Joe over here wants to buy this house. Is he pre-qualified, or is this just some kind of bogus letter that Joe wrote up? Okay. And then we're going to prepare counter offers. Sometimes people will come in, yep, and they'll offer you full price, and then you just get going. Sometimes they'll offer a lower price, and we have to negotiate a counter offer, and we have to understand what the clauses are and what they want in the final closing compared to what we're willing to offer. Talk about inspections. Okay. Now there's septic, there's termite, there's whole house, there's chimney, there's well, and there's mold inspections here in North Texas. Do we need all of those inspections? A lot of houses here won't need well and septic. Okay. But let's negotiate, and let's understand what those inspections mean, what the limitations are on them, and what the possible outcomes or ramifications of one of these inspections are. We review the reports, or we potentially negotiate repairs. Look, here's something that's interesting. Every single house in North Texas is going to have a problem with the caulking on the outside windows. It's just the weather, it's the heat, and kind of like the drastic cold that sometimes like we get here in December and January and February. And then the heat, this was a very bad very bad summer here for heat outside. That caulking is going to dry out, and it's going to crack. Okay. Hey, every time I see that as a buyer's agent, I ask for that caulking to be repaired. And 9 times out of 10, the seller's agent's going to say no, it's just the condition of North Texas. Okay, understand that. But maybe there's that one out of 10 that I'm going to get done for a little old lady that's not going to be able to go out there on her own, who's on a fixed income, who's not going to be able to go out there on her own. And so I negotiate that repair for my client. Closing. Okay, so we get the closing. We're going to review the appraisal to make sure there's no issues. We're going to update and submit all the closing documents. We're going to ensure that all parties have all the updated documents. And that seems like a little thing, but you know what? When you get the title and you get the closing and something doesn't match up, the title agent's going to say, "Oh, sorry, we're not going to close." Okay, because they're responsible to the lender. Okay, and to this and to the county and city, but they're responsible, and they're going to say, nope, this doesn't match up. We've got to go back to the table, and you're going to be upset that we're not going to be able to close that day. As a seller, you're upset you're not going to get your money and your funds, because maybe you're going to buy a house down the tomorrow. Okay, and so you need those funds in order to pay off that house. And so you're going to be upset if we don't close. We coordinate the closing date and the location. We ensure that all parties again have the updated docs. We coordinate with the lender and title to make sure they're on board and they have everything that they need. And we confirm that the title insurance is valid and paid for and set, and who paid for it. We confirm that there's home insurance on the seller side. We confirm that the buyer has got their home insurance set up, and on the buyer side, we ensure that my buyer has their home insurance set up. And then review and explain all the documents and the processes. Hey, if you've been in your house, let's say for 20 years, okay, 15 or 20 years, a lot's changed since 2008, 2009. The paperwork just about doubled, okay? And so we explain all the docs, we explain what they're for, what they say, because you know what, when you get the title, okay, when you get the closing, what's going to happen is that title agent, and God bless them, they're just going to say, sign over here, sign over here. This says X, Y, and Z, sign over here. They're not going to explain the docs to you. Now, they should have sent the docs out 3 days before closing. Rarely does that ever happen. Okay, but if you have, so as we get the closing, a couple days before, I'm going to explain all the docs to you, what they mean and how they affect you on your, on the closing. Now let's kind of switch gears just slightly to the buyer side. So you come and say, hey, you want to buy, I'm interested in buying a house. I'm going to do a market analysis for you, understand where you think you want to live. I'm going to do a market analysis and a property search. Yeah, you can go to Realtor.com or Zillow or one of those, but you know what? You're not going to get the off-market stuff, and you're not going to get the coming soon stuff on either Zillow or Realtor.com. Okay, so we have more information that we can provide to you. We're gonna review viewing coordinations. So we're going to talk to other agents and the sellers to say, hey, we're coming by there at noon. We're going to come by there at 2, whatever. And we're going to make sure that the house is empty and we're not dealing with, a party going on and, killer dogs in the bedroom, kind of stuff like that. We're going to negotiate the contract and the buy for you. We're going to do transaction management, which basically means all of those documents we talked about on the sell side. We got those same documents on the buy side, okay? Because they go to each party, the buyer and the seller. We're going to get you to close on time, okay? Which means we're going to make sure that as we go through our checklist, and we're going to share that checklist with you. We're going to go through that checklist, and we're going to say, hey, this is due then, this is due now, this is due next week, this is due in 2 days, so to make sure that we're on target, on schedule. We'll do a due diligence to make sure that the house you're buying in this new development doesn't have the nuclear waste dump going in next door, or something like that. We're going to make sure that you're going to be happy there, for the next 10 years. And we're gonna do post-closing support, which means you're going to be looking for a plumber, you're going to be looking for an electrician, you're going to be looking for a mason or somebody like that, or somebody to do lawn maintenance or what have you, or when does garbage pickup. We're going to get you we're going to get you that information. We're going to be there for you even after closing. Typically, although I'll tell you what, we don't necessarily help you with the move, but we'll supply you with names of movers. We have fed the movers in the past, so FYI. I hope that kind of filled in a little of the gaps, a little of the unknown about what we do as realtors. to again earn that compensation or commission. Next week, we're going to talk about an active adult community that's really prevalent here in North Texas. I think they have about 6 or 7 locations through North Texas. The name of the community is called Ladera. They have several new communities under construction right now and several established. Okay, so next week we're going to talk about the active adult community, Ladera. I hope you join us. This is Steve. I am with the Rose Realty team. Take care.